of the hill where speed limit changes to 30, there was a school bus right on my tail. That's how fast that school bus was coming after me. Very frustrating. And I know we've tried to do additional patrols. Officer Proft has done that. I've been in communication with him. He has helped in that regard. We've looked into electronic signage that I think was vetoed by the state. But I strongly request and strongly suggest that we do something, not just in my little stretch of 30, but all of 30, all of the West Road, because people drive without any regard for the local community, and it's really annoying. I suggest when you come into Dorset past 315, very strongly worded signage. If we can't have an electric sign, something that duns people into just kind of snapping out of it and realizing the speed limit has changed, you're now in a community, respect it. And I've seen this in other communities, zero tolerance signs that just make people kind of wake up and realize, oh my God, people live here. And same coming the opposite direction, going north past the Meadowy Mints, they come down that hill and they get momentum. The trucks, the cars, they are going 60 miles per hour by the time they get to my house. When people go by at 40 miles per hour, I don't have a problem. It is not a problem. If we could, the second thing, if we can't have strong, or besides strong signage, I would suggest lobbying the state to lower the speed limit to 35. I know that's a real challenge. I know it's tough to get it from 50 to 40, but if we get the speed limit to 35, then maybe they'll only go 45. And that's better than going 60, what they're doing right now. So, thank you.
Cliff, I can update you a little bit. So we haven't been outright denied for the electronic signage, so that's still in the works and possible. The two things, the location that we wanted to put it is actually in Rupert, so we need to get their permission, which I don't think that's going to be a problem, but we had to update a speed study, which we have to have the Regional Planning Commission lay down a little strip that counts cars and checks speed. That's going to be done hopefully in the next month, which should allow us to then have the data to then make a presentation to the state to have a speed sign on that northern entrance to town. So that's hopefully going to be forthcoming here pretty soon. And we're doing it for the board's edification too. We're doing it on the far southern end of town as well, on the Manchester line, for kind of the same reasons. So hopefully at some point we'll have a presentation to approve purchase of the new signs and installation and all that.
The speed study is also what we need to do if we wanted to take another shot at speed limit, right?
Lowering it. Yeah, it's the same speed study. So the 85th percentile speed number that'll present is typically what the state will set it at. So if, to Cliff's point, if that's 50, the state's going to go, well, you guys got it lowered to 40, but it really shouldn't be 40. It should be 50, because that's the speed that the cars want to go. It's
No, it's not a lot.
It's nonsensical because they don't factor in the impacts to property or community. I mean, that's just not it's
safety.
Their purpose is to serve, vehicular travel, and that's pretty much the way the rules are. So, so hopefully, the signage, maybe a little bit more after hours coverage from the sounds of it, if we can get it, might help as well.
But once we get the results of the speed study, that'll also will let us know whether we have any shot at getting
the speed limit changed.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we have already done the study as far as the strips that count the cars.
That's going to happen in the next month or so.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. And then once we have that data, then we'll be able to. I have to put a permit application together to the state for the sign and the sign location. Once I get our friends in Rupert to say yes, that would be fine. You could put a sign there. And package that with our data, we can send it off to the state, get the permit, and then we would be able to do the installation.
Where's the sign going to be? Why is it Rupert? Is it down by was it the NASA?
After the intersection after the intersection with 315, kind of before you get to Cliff's house and that straightaway, there's I think it's Suzanne, well, it's Suzanne Washburn's house is kind of the last one in Dorset, but there's a set of like locust trees kind of clumped together.
Yep.
And it's like at the beginning of that straightaway. So before they are like,
You make a left turn. Kind of a gradual left turn.
yeah. So it's technically not in Dorset. I think it's the best place to locate it. I mean, I think you could push it forward a little, you could push it south a little bit, but then you would miss maybe the impact to the first set of houses.
First, yeah, okay.
And I
Which
feel
is
like as they make that turn.
Cliff's
they saw
house is in that
it would definitely
cluster.
miss the knock over the head.
It's more
So
visible.
the
Yeah.
turn, so you got the turn at 3:15.
Yeah,
It turns.
So they would come through the 315 kind of intersection, and then they would, that little kind of subtle turn where you go up and turn, that's when they would hit it, they would hit it right there.
Yeah.
Which, the hope is that would cause that, you know, the reaction, which is the pumping of the brakes and stuff, which it does.
And
It
it would
does,
be a similar sign like the one in East Dorset.
correct, yeah.
Which I think is very effective.
I think, I mean, it's effective for me.
For me,
because
it's effective for me.
Sometimes
Yeah.
I'm going through, I'm like, and I yell at everybody going through there. So,
Yep.
and I'm
I
like,
know.
oh yeah, I'm going too fast.
Yeah,
I
no,
know.
there's good data on the, you know, how much they, how they work. They do work, so, that's why they're used.
So, so the speed limit study would be within the next month.
Yep, and it takes a while to provocate that because the Regional Planning Commission does it. They have one staff member dedicated to it, and it basically all the towns in the county are trying to have it done at the same time.
Okay.
And so when they put down those things, I always thought it was just trips, but that can measure
Speed.
speed.
Yep.
That's good
It's
to know.
volume and speed.
Yeah, so you better slow down, Frank.
I don't know,
Yeah,
it's me.
volume and speed, and then it produces that report that they give.
Special camera there.
Yep.
Can we also look at something
Right,
going
right.
north, as I mentioned, by the Meadowy Mint, where they go down that hill and get a tremendous amount of momentum going and speed?
It's like after Dog Patch Lane, when they're going after Dog Patch Lane, and then you have that spot, and everybody just starts to gun it because they're all imagining they're already in Pollitt.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. There are, the state controls the signage on 30, and anything we do has to meet their engineering standards. And they do have, you know, signs. Most people don't know or care.
I
But,
see Lisa Cumin is there.
signs typically, different signs are supposed to be different distances away from each other. And so there's minimum distances that are set, so that's the type of thing that may come into play with trying to co-locate another sign so close to the other one. Makes sense to me, but, yeah, we can try and see what they come up with.
If Meadowy Mint wanted to put some sort of additional signage, would they also have to apply?
Yeah, if it's in the right of way of the state, you'd
Okay.
have to go through their
Because I
process.
wonder if it's worth talking to Meadowy Mint and saying, hey, if you put a sign here, like on the northbound side, just kind of highlighting like, hey, you know, entry point here, or like, oh, look, there's a store over here. Even just having people see a sign, I think would probably slow them down, even if it had nothing to do with the speeding.
Right, that's a good point.
Yeah, and there's certainly, we'll have the conversation with the Regional Planning Commission that there may be suggestions that we can make for signage in advance of the 315 intersection and some other stuff. But typically, V-Trans is not, they're difficult.
Rob, sometimes you see signs that say, you know, school bus stop, like slow school bus stop, because I know that is one of the things we had heard earlier before we got the first speed limit lowered, is that there are houses there where the school bus has to stop, and, you know, these guys are coming so fast. Is that something, like, what would the state require to have something like that?
Off the top of my head, I'm not sure. There would be certain parameters that would have to be
Yeah.
met. and
Because
I'm
we
not-
do have families living in that area, and I think that's always effective as well, because, you know, school buses are serious business.
Yeah, I mean, that was really the linchpin for the lowering of that speed limit, was
Right.
that, I think the owner.
There's a couple of houses
the
right
owner
across from Meadowy
participated in the hearing, and the owner communicated that the school bus actually won't stop there, because it's not safe. And that's kind of what helped to paint the picture that, you know, things like that, it's a neighborhood, and things like that
Right.
aren't happening because of the,
Okay,
you know, the vehicular speed.
okay.
So,
Thank you,
yeah.
appreciate it.
Start doing some cardboard cutouts of children and dogs and stuff. And put
Well,
them on
you
the
know,
side of the road.
there is that fellow who has the house near Dorset Rising, and he, or Dorset Bakery, we should call it, and he puts those little
The little
fluorescent,
red.
little
Yeah.
cute
Yeah.
things.
There's a flag.
Yeah.
Maybe get one of those.
I think those work too. Or the other thing I noticed was there's a house up in the hollow, and they always have a little kid's tricycle very close to the road,
Yeah.
and it always makes me slow way down, because I'm like, there's somebody around here.
Yep.
Who could ride this tricycle?
Put a
Yeah.
tricycle
Not a
on.
bad strategy.
Thank you.
But it actually does work. Okay, so we're doing our best.
Great, thank you, appreciate it.
Is there any, I know Lisa's on, somebody else, is there any other public comment before we move on? Okay, then why don't we just move right on to the Trust for Public,
Land. Not late.
not lane, public lane update, public land update.
Did I spell it wrong? Of course I did.
Yes, you did, but that's okay, Rob. We won't point it out.
Nothing else going on.
That's one reason I asked the question.
Yes, well, I guess it does create questions. Yeah,
Keep
so
us on our toes.
Hayden Smith from TPL is here, as well as some folks from, I think, the State Forest and Parks Department, and Fish and Wildlife. So Hayden, take it away.
Thanks, Rob. I'm sure it won't be the last time you mess up our organization's name on the agenda.
I hope not. I hope so.
So I'm here tonight to talk about two conservation projects that we're pursuing in the town of Dorset. Here with me tonight, I have Gunnar Nerby from Vermont Forest Parks and Rec, and Will Duane from Department of Fish and Wildlife, both involved on these two projects. Rob, do you mind if I share my screen? Is that?
Yeah, go. You should be able to.
Okay. Okay. Let me know if that worked.
Yep, it did.
Can you see my map?
Yep,
Okay, so this provides a visual of what we're pursuing. The southern block, it's 3 parcels all along the ridge line of Dorset, all kind of along the eastern facing ridge off of Dorset Hill Road here, which is off Morse Hill Road, which is off the map. And all owned by the same landowner. This is Omnia Inc. land. And Trust for Public Land has a contract with the landowner, a multi-year contract to pursue the acquisition of all 3 parcels. And we are pursuing state land acquisitions for all 3. The southern block, this is 126 acres. We're working directly with Will here with the Fish and Wildlife Department on the acquisition of this parcel. The 85 acres in the middle, we're working with Gunnar at Vermont Forest Parks and Rec, as well as the northern. This is labeled as 93 acres. We think that acreage is slightly off. Starting with this southern one, all 3, I should say, are, really high priority land conservation parcels. They kind of check all of the boxes. If you look at Vermont Conservation Design, which is a strategic conservation tool used by the state to identify the highest priority conservation blocks for connectivity, for wildlife movement, for water quality. They really do kind of check every single box in terms of priority level for parcels and conservation. They also, across all 3, there's 11 different rare species. They're really primarily made up of state significant natural communities, which shouldn't be a surprise. All 3 are part of the second largest example of a rich northern hardwood forest, which is a state significant natural community. The 126, the idea here is that under Vermont Fish and Wildlife ownership, that could potentially become a new wildlife management area. The idea here is that we're pursuing a project jointly with the Nature Conservancy, who owns the Mount Aeolus Natural Area, also known as Dorset Bat Cave property here. Working with both of these parcels as acquisitions by Vermont Department of Fish and Wildlife. So this is one kind of joint unit here. These northern two, as FPR acquisitions, Vermont Forest Parks and Rec, they could potentially be additions to Emerald Lake State Park, especially the 93 here at the northern end, or this 85 acre could be a separate state forest. We haven't fully confirmed that yet. In terms of the priority level, both projects have in the town, they're all within the Rural Resource Protection Zone. Let me hop over to that map real quick. Can you all see this map?
Yep.
Yes.
Let me zoom in. Zoom in specifically to the area we're interested in here. So this zooms into the area. This dark green is the area that's under the Rural Resource Protection Zone. This is really the highest elevation lands in town along the ridge line between Mount Aeolus, Dorset Hill, Meatop Mountain, all the way up to Dorset down at the top here. It's extremely steep, very rugged, all kind of historic quarrying lands. Makes for a really messy title to review the title and find all the mineral rights. But they're all, really significant in terms of the natural resource values, which is something that's embedded in the zoning policies, the zoning bylaws that the select board passed in 2023 highlighted this area and the need to protect and zone these high elevation areas for the scenic values of the ridgeline. And in the town plan also highlights the need to protect these areas and even pursue conservation outcomes along the ridgeline for natural resource values. So that's a little bit of background of what we're doing. We're coming here tonight to not only share the project with you, but also request a letter of support as we pursue state grant funding. So both projects will be applying for Vermont Housing and Conservation Board funding. Next week is the deadline, but the board meeting is actually on December 10th. So we're hoping to get these applications in for a VHCB board review before the end of the calendar year. And the southern one down here with Vermont Department of Fish and Wildlife, the idea here is that the public state VHCB money would be matched by federal money through the Section 6 Land Recovery, RLAG is what it's called, so Recovery Land Acquisition Grant, which is really pinpointed for the protection of rare species, endangered species, federally listed endangered species. The Bat Cave parcel adjacent on the TNC parcel, I think there's been 5 different documented either federally listed or state listed bat species that occupy the Dorset Bat Cave. So it's an incredibly high priority. I'm probably taking all of Will's talking points. And the northern 2 pieces with FPR, the idea is that we'd apply for Vermont Housing Conservation Board funds and have that matched by private funds raised by TPL. I think now I'll pass it over to Will to talk about the southern parcel and the state, why the state's interested in it, and then he can pass the mic over to Gunnar.
Thanks. Thank you so much for that intro. That was great. That's a great summary of the project so far. Let me just introduce myself. My name is Will Duane. I'm the land acquisition coordinator for the Department of Fish and Wildlife, and appreciate the opportunity to join you remotely tonight. Hayden and I were just commiserating earlier today that we both got, in very far different parts of the state, the same back to school cough from our school-age children. So thanks everyone for that. The Department of Fish and Wildlife, as Hayden said, is looking to acquire 2 parcels here in Dorset. One currently owned by the Omnia Corporation, the other by the Nature Conservancy Vermont chapter. And it's that Vermont Nature Conservancy chapter that's got a lot of biologists at the Department of Fish and Wildlife really excited. The Dorset Bat Cave, as you folks are probably aware, is a regionally significant host to bat populations. We've got four four endangered bat species there, two of which are federally endangered, which is a pretty big deal. Those are the Indiana bat and the northern long-eared bat. The Department of Fish and Wildlife's been kind of co-managing the Bat Cave parcel with the Nature Conservancy for the last few decades. Our biologists have been doing bat surveys there for some time, and especially after white nose syndrome moved through, this cave became even more regionally and nationally significant. We estimate that there's anywhere between, I think, 70 and 90,000 bats that overwinter here in the cave. So it's an incredible habitat source for them, but also a great place for our scientists to study them. The Nature Conservancy's been interested in transferring this parcel. We had conversations guided by Hayden and the folks at Trust for Public Land exploring conservation with maybe the National Forest or Vermont Fish and Wildlife, and ultimately we all kind of felt that Fish and Wildlife was the best fit. And in addition to the Bat Cave, there's that Omea 126-acre parcel that we think is a nice fit for giving us what we call site control to be able to manage the property. So this would likely become a new wildlife management area. It's of a significant size, getting close to almost 400 acres total just for the Fish and Wildlife acquisition. So if you're not familiar with our wildlife management areas, we're out there typically nearby with our state parks and state forests, and we allow for dispersed wildlife-based recreation all over our properties.
Well, could you elaborate on
I think
that?
that's it. Yeah, go ahead.
In terms of what access is allowed in a WMU, is I assume no vehicles or just kind of what?
Correct, yes. So our WMUs are the individual zones where certain antlerless deer tags might be distributed. Those are wildlife management units. There's like 25 across the state. Our wildlife management areas are state-owned public land. And what we typically do is create a parking area for vehicles not too far off the traveled roadway, put up an informational kiosk, but from there it's all about kind of unimpeded, undeveloped public recreation, low impact, no vehicle recreation. So ATVs are not allowed on any A&R state lands. We do, if there's a bass trail in place, we'll honor that preceding agreement. But hunting, angling, trapping, hiking, wildlife viewing, just enjoying the nature. There's really no limit on the uses. We don't allow mountain biking unless we make an affirmative decision to allow it. But other than that, it's any kind of pedestrian access.
And do you know, I assume these areas would not be part of the proposed Belmont Trail? I don't think they're close enough.
Yeah, you're correct. Hayden and TPL folks have done a really nice job of setting this up for multiple recreation uses. You're correct. The Vermont Fish and Wildlife acquisitions would not have mountain biking come through there as part of a WMA use. But the state forest, and Hayden can maybe elaborate it, the Belmont Trail, if it comes to fruition, would be nearby, but it wouldn't be on these lands.
I think that's a good segue into the two other parcels that FPL is looking at. So I'm Gunnar Nerney, Land Acquisition Coordinator with the Vermont Department of Forest, Parks and Recreation. And as Hayden explained, we are working with TPL to consider and pursue acquisition of both the 93-acre parcel and the 85-acre parcel shown on the map there. Like Hayden said, the 93-acre parcel would be in addition to Emerald Lake State Park. The 85-acre parcel would likely probably be in addition to the state park as well, although there's the potential that it could be a new state forest. We're interested in these two parcels largely because kind of all the natural community and rare species values that Hayden explained earlier. The rich northern hardwood forest natural community up there is really valuable and something that we want to protect. There's 9 rare plant species on the 85-acre parcel and 2 on the 93-acre parcel. So some rare species to be protected. And Would the 93 acre parcel being directly across Dorset Hill Road, I believe, would make a natural addition to the state park, and the 85 acre parcel being on the ridgeline, having the natural community benefits, also makes a logical FPR acquisition. Will was talking a little bit about the Belmont Trail and mountain bikes. Generally, the same uses are permitted on all FPR lands. All FPR lands are open for hiking, hunting, fishing, trapping, skiing, wildlife viewing, etc. FPR lands are generally allow mountain biking more than WMAs. And as such, part of the driving force behind the two FPR acquisitions is the potential route of the Belmont Trail coming through this area along the Dorset ridgeline. The route of the Belmont Trail is not set in stone. The Belmont Trail is not set in stone, and whether or not these parcels would host the Belmont Trail is not set in stone. That's something that would all be figured out later down the line. But by protecting these lands and working to protect more of this corridor along the ridgeline, we preserve that opportunity. I think one last thing I'll say that I don't know if it was mentioned or not. There's a lot of really important connectivity benefits to these parcels. They're part of a 19,000 acre unfragmented forest block and connect to around 10,000 acres of existing conserved private and public land. So a lot of really good wildlife and forest connectivity benefits as well to protecting these parcels. That's FPR's interest in the property.
I will just jump in really quickly that we were originally pursuing additions to Green Mountain National Forest in this area, and we were working directly with the Forest Service, the Green Mountain National Forest staff, specifically on the northern two, but changes with the administration and changes even locally at regional offices within Green Mountain National Forest have really forced us to kind of find alternative outcomes, and the state has been an amazing partner in stepping in and realizing the significance of these particular properties as well as others that we hope to pursue in Dorset down the road. I think that Green Mountain National Forest, we're still looking to support the National Forest staff as much as we possibly can, but due to staffing shortages and some of the recent kind of just restrictions on their abilities has forced us to really kind of pivot and work really closely with state and the regional managers that help facilitate state lands in Dorset.
Great. So Hayden, can you reiterate what the request is for tonight?
Sure, yeah. So tonight we wanted to share this, but we also wanted to request a letter of support for our grant applications that we'll be submitting next week. Those really help strengthen our submissions to Vermont Housing Conservation Board, getting the support from the local select board. So that's really why we're here tonight, is to request a formal letter of support from the select board. Typically it's signed by the select board chair, and TPL is happy to work after the meeting and whatever we need to get information about the benefits of these properties for the town.
Is there anyone who would ever concerned with our supporting that?
The flip side is, they'd be coming off the tax rolls. If it's state owned, there would be a pilot payment, which is a payment in lieu of taxes. that
There can't be
typically
much
gets-
in the way of tax payment on.
No, I mean, they're high elevation parcels
on
that aren't
kind of
high
not
value.
usable, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, from our zoning, you saw the zoning overlay, that stuff that is high
Can't build.
elevation typically is not developable, so the tax impact, you could quantify it, but it's probably not huge.
Significant, yeah.
You know, the economics related to the potential recreation parts to it probably exceed the tax levy, you know, over time.
Sometimes I get surprised when people come out of the woodwork saying, how could you have ever possibly considered doing that?
Yeah, I think it's situational, it depends on the parcel of land and where it is and, you know, what it's valued at. In this case, again, it's on the ridge line. We've got a lot of, Hayden talked about the zoning documents, the town plan. There's a lot of, you know, that green zone at the top of the ridge is there for a reason. And this is kind of the final step for stuff is, you know, you have the land use, which is just an overlay, you know, over property and the potential long-term solution for protection is, you know, conservation, which would get, you know, these particular parcels to that kind of final end where it's all, you know, publicly owned, connected, available, protecting resources.
And the town owns Freely Quarry?
It's a little, there's murky title that
Okay,
potentially we do, potentially we don't.
just curious, kind of seeing, or, you know,
No, it's been carried in a lot of places as being owned by the town. The town took it off the grand list it's been on the grand list as being owned by the town for a long time. So,
So do we want a motion to create a letter of support?
Yeah, I think so.
yeah,
We'll take a motion.
Okay, I motion that.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, any other questions? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. We will give you your letter.
great, yeah, Hayden,
Appreciate your time.
yeah, if you have a template that you wanna send me, that would be great.
Yeah.
I can get Megan to sign it.
not too
No, I missed that
I said, if you have a template for the letter
sometimes.
with certain things that you want in it,
Could, yeah.
let me know and I can integrate that into the letter and then we can have Megan sign it.
one. Okay, that sounds great.
And if it's all right, folks, I'd like to just, something I like to do at these meetings, if folks like to look at your meeting minutes, or if you all have any questions, I'd like to just put my contact information into the record for your meeting. So again, my name is Will Duane, D-U-A-N-E. I'm the Land Acquisition Coordinator for Vermont Fish and Wildlife. My email address is will.duane@vermont.gov. And folks can reach out to me on the phone if they'd like as well. It's 522-7633. And I'll take a moment, just ask Gunnar to do the same.
Yeah, thanks, Will. Name is Gunnar Nurmi, Gunnar, as in Nancy, URM as in Mary E. Email is gunnar.nurmi@vermont.gov, and my phone is 802-261-7140. I'm also happy to answer any questions or chat anytime.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for your time.
Thank you
Thank you
very
all.
much.
Thanks, Hayden.
Thank you, see ya.
Hey, Rob, what is that little square that says it's town owned? What is that? Good night, Cliff.
Take care.
Hollow?
What's that one?
Oh, that teeny little thing.
Oh, it's the cemetery on Dorset Hill Road.
Oh, okay. I'm just curious. It's like suddenly when you see it like this.
Yeah, you
it's-
start to look for,
Yeah,
yep, all the color-coded
Right.
items.
okay. All right, town office update, looks pretty good. Pay
I
requisition.
think it's almost done.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, Not a ton to say, other than, you know, we talked about it a little bit at the prelim to the open house. You know, we're now to the stage where this pay rec, number 14 is really the last large one that we're gonna have. We'll have, I think, one more smaller one after this, and that'll be pretty much it. And then aside from, you know, things that come up like door stoppers and, you know, other things that are needed to make the building function, we're pretty much, you know, almost done with the project. So, yeah. So tonight, the pay rec 14 is what needs to get approved.
So I'll make a motion to approve the requisition of $201,763.01.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And just so you know, Rob was saying that he was talking to Jess Hunziker, who's the new executive director of the Dorset Historical Society, and they're going to work with us to put some exhibitions together on the walls.
Nice.
Fabulous.
Yeah, we did. Obviously, the space is bigger, right? So the wall items that we had in the other space that filled up the rooms don't fill up this space. So we've put some stuff in here, but obviously you get into the halls and the clerk area, the lobby, the hall down to the offices all has really nice wall space that, you know, I think is going to be really neat. If they can, you know, maybe do some kind of seasonal or, you know, semi-annual.
Actually rotate stuff through.
Yeah, stuff that's curated. I know that they have, you know, the Bly House is only so big too, so
Right.
it's, you know, there's plenty of stuff that
We don't have room to
Yeah.
exhibit everything we've
Yep.
got, so
So-
it would be great.
will be.
Okay, Raptor Lane Housing Committee update.
Yep, so I'm gonna quickly try to get to that page, okay. So at the last meeting, I had an overview of, kind of where we were in relation to the RFP. So the RFP due date, for responses was August 20th, which was the day after our meeting. We did get a response, from SM Graves and Associates. They're based out of, Rutland. And at this point, White and Burke is currently working through that proposal and checking references and working through a process by which they're gonna create a summary and recommendation for the select board. And I've developed a little bit of an outline kind of moving forward on what I kind of expect to happen as it was explained to me by White and Burke and Graves. Is that there, you know, that summary is going to get developed. There'll be a presentation, hopefully to the housing committee, presentation to the select board. The general expectation is that there's going to be a, you know, the first step here is going to be to, for SM Graves to ask for some duration of due diligence, which basically what that means is to have their, you know, we had an engineering firm and some other vendors look at the parcels, do review, do environmental work. They're going to essentially do the same thing. They're going to look at the stuff that we did. They're going to do their own work, and try to see how that kind of meshes up with the proposal that they put together. And then the kind of, you know, after that 6 to 9, or after and during that kind of 6 to 9 month time frame, I think it's a good point for the town to then start to develop kind of focus groups or stakeholder groups to try to get input into the process, so that we can better understand kind of what the feelings of the community are and what the needs are and how we can help solve, you know, issues with employers struggling with, you know, access to housing and stuff
Right.
like that. So I think that we can kind of do that outreach, get that information, you know, at the same time, as things become more clear in terms of, you know, it's the proposal would be phased development over years. Once we get a better sense of, you know, the first phase and kind of what the schematic looks like and what the, you know, what built environments might, or built buildings might look like, then we, you know, that stuff can start to be, again, kind of put into kind of a public outreach process. And then, at the end of that process, would be ultimately a development agreement to move forward on, some combination of all the things that get kind of discussed or talked about. As it looks right now, it looks like that everything that I kind of described right there is likely it's going to take a while. It's going to take 10 to 12 months potentially. And I think that, that gives time for, at the last meeting, I presented a little bit about it, but for the CHIP program, which is part of the recent changes to statewide land use, and Act 250 is there's now a kind of a financing mechanism that the state's hoping to set up to try to incentivize housing development. And it's likely that this anything that we do is probably going to be a good candidate for it. So our process is going to kind of have to kind of track along with that a little bit. So the good news is White and Burke, this is what they do. They are a facilitator. They have staff that are going to be able to kind of drill down into the CHIP program and let us know like what to expect and what we need to do, and what potentially the developer would need to do. At the last meeting, we talked about the Northern Borders Regional Commission, which is a kind of subsidiary of the USDA. And they have economic development grant funding available. So we put in a pre-application, which is really just a simple couple of page document. Basically, pre-application for a grant that would try to draw down money for some of this early phase work. So they have two programs. They've got like non-construction and then construction. The non-construction stuff has a cap of $100,000 that you can apply for with a 50% cost share. So if we spent 200, we'd get 100. And the way that process works is I hopefully will know back in a few weeks as to whether or not we're going to be invited to actually apply. So there's kind of a pre-application that goes in. It's pretty competitive. If we get an invitation to apply, that's a good sign, and then we'll apply this fall. And that could help. If you recall in the RFP, the town has put some benchmarks out there for kind of financial contributions to the process, and this grant could pay for parts of that. So the hope is to try to leverage outside money for that, for portions of it. Same thing with the planning grant, which is going to be applied for here in a little bit. That's a state level program, which is less competitive, and Dorset hasn't gotten a planning grant in a while, so we're probably a pretty good candidate. We could leverage up to $30,000 for that. And the concept at this point is there's a market study that's going to be needed as part of the developer's kind of process, and the hope is that maybe the planning grant could help facilitate and fund the market study, which would then go toward that the funding that we've earmarked toward soft costs on the RFP. And then just the last little piece is just an update about the bylaw updates. The Planning Commission has crafted language in response to Raptor Lane, as well as a thing with I think it's the zoning district related to the field club. And I anticipate that there's going to be warned hearings, I think, for the language. There's not a lot of language, it's only a few changes. Warned hearings, I think soon. Probably October, November. And that the way that process works is in order to amend the bylaw, it requires a hearing of the Planning Commission, approval, hearing of the Select Board, approval, and then there's kind of a review or petition period, and then once it gets through that, then it becomes active. But the good news is that it's there's a few things that were pointed out that they're not big changes. But they do help, with certain aspects of density and the planned unit development structure. So it would be an asset for the Raptor Lane stuff.
Rob, when it says here SM Grace would conduct the due diligence, when would they start that due diligence? Because we wouldn't necessarily have a firm commitment or anything until we do all these other things. So would they start that ahead of that?
So there would be an agreement to start that. So the next step is some presentations from a recommendation, memo with a summary and recommendation from White and Burke, along with a presentation, probably a presentation from Graves at some level. And then, the resulting ask out of that would be, Graves is looking to have an agreement where we give them the ability to take 6 to 9 months or whatever the duration is.
To go through all of that.
To do all
Okay.
that, yep. And then, there would be expectations moving forward that if, that works out, then the next stage would be working toward a development agreement.
Okay.
Now, just curious, White and Burke's doing the due diligence and all that, but, just in looking at SM Graves, they're, on the internet, they present a little different than I would have expected them to. Not as much of a straight real estate development company as. So I'm just curious about, had you met with them at all?
It's a partnership, so it's not just, Scott is kind of the face that's on the proposal, but it's other people that I think maybe, aren't always worked with. I think traditionally, yes, so we met with him last week, just to kind of, say thank you for the proposal, and then to kind of summarize the next steps, which are White and Burke to go back and do what they're going to do. And then, after that, to then get the presentation in front of the boards and start to kind of start the first part of the decision-making process. So yes, if you're if you're wanting to, the hope is that we'd meet with the vendor.
I just looked up SM Graves.
Questions.
Talks about Scott, and he does some real estate stuff, but
Yep.
everybody on SM Graves is kind of in the media business,
Yeah. I think part of the awkwardness now is once I get a sense of what parts of the proposal that I can start to share, like there's bios for all the people that are part of the partnership. There's bios on the architect, bios on the engineering firm, but so once I want to send that all as a package.
All the groups we're
right?
talking to almost are mishmashes of different
Correct.
groups, so
Different
Yeah.
stakeholders that are working
just the
together.
way it works.
Yeah, I mean, I can say that I think that, it's a thoughtful proposal. I think it does a good job of the concept of what the housing, and I think the select board as well, I mean, what we've been talking about, workforce housing and senior housing. We haven't put solid, limit definitions onto what affordable means, right? So we're saying workforce housing, so we're trying to, meet that. Really, the closest thing to a definition is what the state's now calling missing middle, which is your single family middle class, middle middle housing, where there's typically not federal grant money to support the development of it because the people make too much money.
But it's kind of, we're missing everything except for high end.
Yeah, I mean, there's been
Exactly.
there's been such little, additions to the inventory level over the years that, yeah, I mean, almost any unit would be,
Yeah.
welcome. So I think the way that, when we get to that point to where they can speak to the presentation, which will be really great. There's a component of active senior downsizing with a market rate component to it that I think that they're trying to capitalize on.
Right, because that could be real demand
Correct.
at a higher price point.
Correct.
It isn't, so.
Yeah, and that could be a component of, of how it's attacked that would allow, some of that margin to then subsidize the working family units.
Yeah, starter homes and.
Yep,
things like
and
that.
to try to have a blend of, all the different types of units and kind of the look and the feel, and to try to mesh it into the setting, to have it fit within the, the characters of
Because
the
in
community, all that
Manchester,
stuff.
some of the stuff they were talking about was, trying to create homes for $250. And I think, that's great, but, to get there, you almost.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think there will be,
Market value, yeah.
there'll be components of, you know, the market rate stuff. They will, you know, the construction methodology, they're gonna look at modular, you know, as a possibility to try to, you know, drive down costs. I think, you know, one good example of that right now is there's,
Vermont.
Stone Crop Meadow, which is in, Middlebury. It's one of one of the kind of workforce housing type efforts going on up there. There's a component of modular that's going into that. And
What's it called again?
Stone crop.
Stone Crop Meadow. But Huntington Homes is one of the
Yeah, Huntington
vendors
Homes,
that
yeah.
they've actually done a handful of single families down here that are modular. Like
It's
there's
super nice.
there's one on Morse Hill that just went in not long ago. Like if you like just before the school, they expanded the apron of the driveway so that they could get the truck to make the turn to
Right,
get
exactly.
to get
That's the tricky
to get to
part.
the site. And it's not a small. I mean, it's a big.
Oh, they're doing some great stuff with modular.
It's like a
nowadays.
Yeah,
it's
Alec,
like a-
Alec Marshall just put one in his property, up off of Kirby Hollow, and I went in through it. It's beautiful,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
big.
So, you know, in terms of the price point, Jim, and all that stuff that's gonna be, you know, presented, discussed, tried to be decided, like, you know, eventually, you know, it's gonna, there's a fixed cost for, you know,
Yeah.
a certain type of unit. And then, you know, if we want to offer that unit, or we want the developer to offer that unit at a certain
Yeah.
number, then, you know, somewhere there's gotta be something to make that,
I just always think, you know, our
to make the math
involvement-
work, you know?
Our involvement and all ends up, you know, meaning that, you know, the base cost before you get to building is pretty minimal. So at that point, you know, it's sort of, you know, being able to, you know, in, what we're seeing through the BCA is if you know, somebody has a piece of property, piece of land any place, then you know, it's already starts to price it out of the market.
Right.
You know, doing anything
Yeah.
lower end, but here,
Yeah, no,
you know,
the-
since
I mean, the base
the land
value
cost
of
could be
the,
almost nothing, then you can make
Yeah,
it
and
work.
that's-
Exactly. It makes it more marketable for the
Yeah.
developers to actually do something where they're not just charging $1 million
They're not
for a
gonna
house.
lose a lot of money on lower end housing.
Right.
It's more modest.
yeah, and
More
then
modest houses, yeah.
with the component of market rate, you know, you're getting what you would have gotten anyway, right? I mean, if it's market rate, I mean,
Yes.
it's within reason, you're getting the type of development that you naturally, the market
Right.
would bear. So, yeah, I think, you know, an obvious next, piece is at probably the October meeting. There'll be more information in the packet, and there'll be a summary, and we'll know, you know, a little bit more about just this next step.
Right.
A little kiddish.
What's happening over there?
Okay.
Are you shrinking?
I'm feeling a little kiddish in this chair.
You can pop it up. There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah, hopefully it's not.
Welcome to the big kids table.
Big kids table. How about that?
Okay, well, that all sounds promising, movement, and, yeah, we'll just, again, see what it turns out to be. Okay, old new business, I always love that heading.
Yeah.
Oh, you did mention in here that, BCRC will be giving presentations to the Planning Commission on CHIP,
Yes.
and so you're gonna let us know when that is? so-
Yeah, I think it's gonna be at the October meeting, so we're gonna make a little flyer
Just so
probably
we know
for
in
it.
case we wanna learn
Yep.
a few things.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that they'll have, a presentation that they can share in advance of it, or after, that we can get out there too, so that everybody can see that if they're not able to go. Let's see. Okay, so East Dorset, so at the last meeting, I think, we kind of looked at some options that we liked for the adjustment of Route 7, the addition to kind of sidewalk, walking
Right.
path type stuff in an effort to try to, lower speeds through there. So we're waiting for cost estimating, and then for the feedback that MSK gets from the Agency of Transportation. Let's see, on the East Dorset flooding, the Pulteney Meadowy Conservation District is going to be planting some trees on the Chanticleer site, hopefully soon. I mean, it's
What kind of trees are they planting?
it's a combination of a bunch of different kind of wetland
Wetland,
specific, yeah. They may be more shrub-looking trees than actual trees.
It kind of just sounds right. Pulteney Meadowy Conservation District.
Yeah, I know, interesting.
Yep, so
Very
that's the,
specific.
there's, each county or kind of subset area in Vermont has a conservation district. Dorset is actually, I think we're kind of split between a northern and a southern one. And in this case, Hillary and the other staffer at the Pulteney group are the ones that answered when I reached out about having any funding for wetland planting, stuff like that. So so they're going to provide the trees, they're going to install them, they're going to do all that. We don't have to pay for it, which is great. Let's see, STRs, we continue to kind of tick up there. There's now 55 total. We are getting around to I think the 1 year anniversary, so there will be some people that have to re-up and pay the fee again. So we'll see how that goes. I think I talked about the town solar at the last meeting. The idea is that our probably cheapest, most efficient, best option to get the kilowatt number that we're trying to get to support both the footprint here and then also the footprint at like the town garage is to actually buy out the units that are on the town garage, take them down, sell them, the panels themselves. The panels have gotten, a larger panel gets that's a lot more efficient, so it does a lot more. And swap those panels out with new, bigger ones that will produce more juice, and then we would own it, and it would be big enough to cover this use, plus probably some of the town garage too. Versus,
If we just stuck with the old ones, then we wouldn't get enough.
we just wouldn't. I mean, it would just we could do that. You could just buy that out. I did ask about trying to add some same size ones. That may be an option too. It may be a lower cost. It's about 20,000 to buy it out, and then all in, I think I had
100,000.
yeah.
But if we buy it out.
All in, it would be about
If we buy it out for
100,000.
20,000, what can we get for the used
Right.
panels?
A couple $1,000s, basically, is what like $2,000 to $3,000.
So our choice is really to kind of just leave it up with somebody else owning it, or if we actually wanted to generate.
Buy it out,
enough,
swap
then
out the
we invest
panels
a little
for
bit in
newer
it.
panels, and then
Invest in it.
Yeah, and make it. Then it would support. It would cover the load of this building, and then potentially do a little bit.
Do we
Probably.
have any other really good locations to put panels? Because I was thinking you could always just leave that contract in place. You get some of it, and if we had another place to add brand new panels and invest the 100, then.
Yep. No. So we're still waiting on a structural review of the fire station, but it's not. I don't know.
In
that it's-
Dorset.
Yeah.
Not enough square footage.
No, so the truss system that holds up that roof, there may
not be strong enough.
There may need to be like structural work that has to get done
Yeah.
to it, and I don't know how feasible that.
So we
is
may
gonna be.
not have another good location, so.
Not off the top. I mean, the ground mounted stuff on the site here. I think it's going to get really expensive really quick
Yeah.
because we haven't done any site work. We haven't, so it may, the cheapest, best option may
I
be
think
to.
ground mounted's gonna be a lot more expensive than a roof.
Ground, yeah, yep, yeah. And in our case, the site, you gotta clear trees, you gotta grow up the site, you gotta prep the site. There's conduit that runs through the building to do all that, but, it's just, before we jumped into that, I wanted to look
See
at
what other options are.
options so that we're being prudent.
And this is a possible use for some of our
ARPA money, which we had set aside.
We had already, yeah, we'd earmarked 125 for this effort. So, and I'm within reason trying to, and it seems like the ground mounted stuff is gonna be more than that. So trying to find, what's the best avenue to try to get the 30K that's needed to, offset this, in the most cost effective manner.
But we still have a couple hundred that's not allocated, so.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you could do more if you want. You could do this ground mounted if you wanted to do it and go above.
But the
Or use it for
150
this.
is not including the clearing and prepping of the land.
That's my best guess is where
That would be all in,
Yeah,
150.
yeah, we'd go over the 125 to upwards of 150.
And that would be sort of over the lip of the
Yeah,
thing.
it would be kind of around
And
the
lower, because Jim, like what Jim Hand was saying, you can do it sort of lower.
So there's two parts of it. Like the consultants that I've worked with, it's basically when I point to the edge of the parking lot, they say they have software on their computers that you can put in like the
the angle of the
GPS
sun and-
the
yeah,
GPS of a site, and it'll like give you, is this a good site or not? Kind of boils it all down, and it's not that great of a site.
Interesting.
Down the hill a little bit,
Yep.
according to them. So that's what the East Dorset site is better
Is much better, yeah.
from a production standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why we get into, well, maybe it's
Makes more sense to
makes
do
more
that.
sense to just
To offset, yep.
yeah. So I don't have enough clarity there yet, but when I get to that point, I'll
Okay.
come back with it. And I still think it's probably a 2026 thing. Let's see. East Dorset Green stuff. So we're working through the process of, we got this place set up, trying to get out of the other place, trying to, we had asbestos testing this week.
When do you get the results of that?
Hopefully next week. I don't think that there's gonna be any issues, but I don't know, it's just part of the commercial demo process.
Right. It does have that other roof hidden underneath the other roof,
Yes.
so you never know what's in
So
there.
the front of and that part of the structure is from 1964, 63. So,
You never know.
maybe yes, maybe no. So that'll kind of inform the timeline for the demo. The hope is to get the building raised and the site in a nice kind of situation before snow flies. So maybe there's not grass growing thickly, but maybe a little bit of grass coming up, and it looks like it's put to bed and looks good for the duration.
You should do a little video walkthrough one last time before we take it down, and particularly upstairs when you open the door and see the other
Memorialize.
roof, just so you can remember how crazy it was.
Yeah, I mean, there'll be, the first thing to come off will be the roof of
Yeah.
the larger building, so when they peel back that roof, they'll see the roof
Second roof.
underneath it.
Can never be too careful with those roofs.
Yeah. So, yes, so a lot of credit to, to staff and the highway department for helping to, we moved ourselves. I had this vision of like, we would load everything up, box everything up, and then, call a mover to come get it, but it just never, we were still trying to work in the same time, so
Yeah.
it just,
A
like, we
little
never
bit
had
at a
like
time, yeah.
a bunch of boxes queued up where we could say, hey, move those boxes. So we just we did it ourselves. So we did, there's definitely some savings on that side. I mean, that's probably a $10,000 or $15,000, saving there by having staff move stuff. So it's good. And the Route 30 stuff we talked about, so that's it for old and new business.
Okay.
Just on the green, since
Yep.
you queued that up right from my alley of septic.
Yeah, oh, thank you, Frank. I missed
Came
that
up,
part.
at
Yep.
the East Dorset block party, I talked to a handful of people about it. So, once the building is demolished, you have 4 years, and then the system is considered completely abandoned. So at any time in there, you could, in theory, hook something up. You don't have to do anything, you can abandon it in place, but I would suggest we at least crush the septic tank so it doesn't collapse. And I think we've talked about this before, the idea of having a bathroom over there to someone's gotta maintain and clean.
Right.
and It just.
It has to be
it's
cleaned
not
every day.
feasible.
No, it's not feasible.
So-
How was it received, Frank, by the whole discussion at the block party? Was it?
Oh, I think most people were, it was one of those things like, boy, it would be nice if you could make it work somehow, but how do you make it?
But they're not volunteering to clean it.
Right, no
Yeah.
one's volunteering to clean it and having
Good
someone
point.
come over and, some kid jams it up on a Friday night and it runs all
Exactly.
weekend.
What structure is it gonna be in? I mean,
Yeah, that's the.
That structure
yeah.
that would have to be heated or
Yeah.
drained and
And on top of that, the neighbors are not, it just doesn't,
it's.
it's not conducive to making it a nice space for everyone, because you've got houses that are so close there.
Unless you,
Whatever the use
unless
has to
you
be.
retain some kind of a structure.
Yeah.
That
You
would,
would have
that
to
would
have
be
some
the.
sort of structure.
If it is, if people are coming here as a destination,
Jim
then
Miranda
that
told me,
does-
somebody was asking, let's keep this going, but
but it would almost be, if somebody were having this as a destination, the one concern is, if you're having an event here, then
can rent a porta potty.
you're gonna have to do that,
Yeah.
or, have some arrangement with the Wilson House or something.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, I think the general sense is that the user group is, are gonna be walking, mostly from their homes.
Local people,
To,
yeah.
to
Or
use the space.
Taking their kids there for an hour.
Yeah, so
Right.
they're,
Right.
if they have to go to the bathroom, they'll just go home.
Yeah.
I think that's my general sense. I mean, I had, earlier had envisioned,
or somebody else who's there who lives
Well,
stuffed.
yeah, that there may be a structure that could be kind of neat, that would be like, have a pavilion component to it and some other stuff, but it just seems like if the user groups aren't asking for it, then it's probably not necessarily needed.
There are a lot of negatives with that.
There are a lot of downsides. And just, that's the whole problem, even when we were talking about leaving the building there and using it as a library, community space. You would need staff to maintain it. You would need staff
Yeah.
to clean it.
Well,
It would
and-
be
yeah.
expensive.
And we used every bit of that building that we could use.
Yeah.
So I think the segue there is that, the reason that we had the whole
Right.
conversation here is there was a bunch of capital investment that was needed in the building.
Yeah.
And we didn't do it because we did this instead, so it's
Right.
not a
It
building
didn't make
that
sense to do that.
is gonna be super conducive to
Anything.
easy reuse.
Patch that place together for $1 million or build this for 3? Yeah, it's
That-
not a hard call.
Right, that
And
was,
still
Exactly.
not have it be what you need.
Yeah, and still not having anything used.
Still have
And
a
then
vault
still
that's
have
too
to
small.
build a vault somewhere
all
else
the-
and have someone man that space.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
that whole design, the clerk was the only one downstairs, and then everybody was upstairs. And then the meeting room was just a little bigger, basically.
Yeah.
That was the only,
No thanks.
yeah, so. But we will make sure that we do right by the site, and that we get it, and I think there's gonna be, as the things, roll out and develop long-term, we'll have I think a better sense of, what to do, how to maintain it, how to refresh the site, because that's gonna be a big part of it, is refreshing the playground and some of the landscaping and moving stuff around, and then, getting it ready, and then seeing what, Jim and his group wanna do with the pavilion structure and some of the other uses. I think it'll be, once it gets reclaimed, and you see how big it is, I think it'll be kind of exciting, because
Yeah.
it's a nice space.
Yeah, and I can't even remember, in that plan, are they gonna replace the playground equipment? Because I get the impression the playground equipment is pretty old.
I think they wanted to
Probably is
move,
15 years old.
yeah, I think they wanted to either add on to and or move
It needs some.
and
fixing.
replace some of it,
Okay,
yeah.
good.
I think there might be like a set of swings that's okay, but then there's a tire swing that we put in that gets very little use,
Yeah.
that could go, stuff
Yeah.
like that could go away, and it's not, it'll fall well within the budget, so.
Yeah, because I think we should definitely do that, and I like the idea of the pavilion, just keeping it open to lots of different use without it requiring maintenance or infringing on the neighbor's use.
Yeah, and I expect that, there's gonna be an effort to try to retain the gardens or the parts of the gardens that we can, because those are really, really nice. So there will still need to be, there's gonna need to be somebody that takes care of the gardens and mows the grass and, and just kind of keeps things orderly, so there will be ongoing stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, just because I don't know, who takes care of the gardens now?
We have a gardener that does it.
Okay, because I was gonna say, and I mean, I know, same with the green on the other side, is that you can get good rates with some of the local people if you need them,
no,
right?
we have
Like
to-
Dorset Rising and stuff.
No, no, we've got a good gardener and
Okay.
we pay him, so he does a
Okay,
great
good.
job. Yep,
Is that Eric?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Eric's awesome. That's it for old and new business.
Okay, perfect. Finance report?
Yep, delinquent taxes, you can see we're kind of driving it down a little bit, getting closer to what kind of the normal benchmark is. Let's see, and at the last meeting I talked about, there was a tax sale, there was also another bigger parcel that's got a payment plan, and that's been working out so far, so that's good. In the FY '25, in the humongous packet, it's humongous because the audit is included in it. Nothing to, not a ton of stuff to write home about. We know about the paving fund deficit, which we had talked about at budget season last year. And yeah, I mean, if there's questions that you all have, I can get them off to Bonnie, who's the auditor. They do a pretty good job. And this year we had to have a single audit. So because the federal money that passed through the town was over 750, we had to have it's basically a subset of the audit document. It's just like another couple of pages that basically just go into the review of that, the transactions that went along with that particular money. As far as fiscal '26, still early, kind of normal stuff looking normal. Payroll and operations stuff. We've just paved P Street this week. We are gonna hopefully purchase a truck that we ordered 2 years ago, soon. So those are kind of the bigger items that'll come through soon. As far as sinking fund and some of the ARPA related cost tracking, the White and Burke number has been updated, as well as the VHB natural resource component for some of the review that was done here at Raptor Lane. And that's all I got.
Any questions?
Is this the one we need a motion on?
We need a motion to approve the financial.
I will make a motion to approve the finance report.
Perfect. Second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Do we have warrants to sign?
Down to the end. We do have warrants right here for the week. And I will
Somebody have a pen? I did not bring my bag with me today.
While that's going around, I will get into the manager report items. So, we talked a little bit about the highway crew. They're really great. I mean, they helped, move heavier items and bigger stuff and just kind of bookend the moving process. They're also gonna be, I think, integral in trying to keep some of the demolition costs down with the demo of the old site, which will be good. Beyond that, they're doing kind of the regular stuff. We're in a cycle right now where it hasn't rained in like forever. And just so you're aware, this is typically the time of year where the roads are all graded, things are done. The roads are ready to be packed in for winter. We don't really want to grade them again, because if we do, you know, all that dust goes everywhere. We've chlorided a lot of them, but just the dryness and the lack of rain and the lack of moisture is like, the dirt roads are still really dusty, even after being chlorided. Like this road here was chlorided like last week. So we're at the point now where we're out of summer chloride, and I don't really want to buy more because it comes in huge chunks and it costs a lot of money. And if we don't use it, it also lives in a tank that we use for winter treatment stuff. So you may get people complaining about dusty roads. Hopefully it rains. High level stuff for the others. So Casella, the fire district, we've kind of worked through and signed the contract with Casella Construction to start additional water line work on Route 30. It's going to be doing partial service lines on Route 30 and then service lines back into homes. It's going to start in a couple weeks, and the best part about it is that it's leveraging that $650,000 in grants and loan forgiveness out of it's about a $1.5 million project, and 650 is covered. And it will kind of bookend what I call the first phase of the water system kind of redo. At the end of this, they'll have spent about 5.2 million in total costs, and they'll owe about 1.8.
Wow, that's great.
1.9, so
It's amazing too when you think about, yeah, because 5.2 million,
it's a lot of money.
it's a lot of money when you consider how many properties it serves.
Right.
Correct. Yeah, no, the difficulty with a utility that is of this size and scale is that it's like, it's just, everything is inherently expensive because you're so
But
small.
it teaches you something when we're looking at this too. When you say, oh, can't you just do it? No.
No, it's without scale,
Right.
without
Scale.
scope and scale, it's really difficult. I think part of the touch point with the water system too is that they're getting to the point where the well on Cheney, the preliminary engineering is done. Now it's going to need some low level treatment. Okay, the treatment's going to cost X. The difficulty there is that functionally the well, it won't really be used much at all. Unless
Right,
they,
it's like backup.
backup, and if there's growth within the system, if people add or expand, people want service, they'd be able to provide the service with the additional water. So that's kind of that's the process this would be above and beyond the 5.2 that has already been spent. That there's another, there's a pump treatment house that's got to be built. There's treatment technology that's got to go in that building. It's it's going to be north of $1 million probably to do all that stuff, and it's like it's difficult with a small system because we're trying to forecast, okay, here's your bond payment and here's how things are kind of tracking along, and so far at the 5.2 in construction cost and the 1.9 borrowed, that's like when we did the bond vote, that's what we told them we were going to do. Like, this is your bill is going to be what we said it was going to be right now.
They're paying the debt service of the 1.9, so they
Right.
can handle that with the revenues from.
Correct. Without dramatically increasing rates. So now the
But if
well
had
stuff.
spent the whole 5.2, it would have been.
Oh, it would have been.
Oh, your rates are going to go up by 4 times.
Yeah, probably more than that. I mean, it's just it's crazy. So
Yeah, it's staggering.
So that there's going to be, you'll see it. I think an outward facing part of that process where we have to have some meetings and we have to inform people that, hey, here's what we got you so far. Here's what we need to do for the well, and then here's what it's going to do to your rates. And we'll try like heck to bring in outside money as much as we can, but at the end of the day,
You're still going to have to put up a decent amount of cash yourself.
yeah, at the end of the day, like there are some. So there's one of the grants that will, if they can move forward. There's one of the grants that we have that doesn't sunset until the end of 26, and it covers 20% of hard costs. And this early part of the construction is not going to max it out. So there will be a little bit of money there, but not a ton. It's going to be a difficult,
This may be the end of the project for the.
So they're going to have, they'll have to decide this. So there's two parts. There's the state basically saying you have to have another source because your source right now
But it's there.
is in the springs don't cover the need in the eyes of the state the way that I could go on forever.
But does that source have to be hooked into the system, or does it have to just be available?
It just has to be available. Yep. It's paper. That's all we're talking about. So that's on paper to have, functionally, they've tightened up the system over the last 6 years. Things are a lot better than they were 6 years ago. But on paper, they still need more water, and that's what the well is gonna do. And that's kind of part of the discussion is the state, the state in their permit to operate, there's real strong language
And why-
that they have to do something, so,
Don't need to get into it.
yeah. No, I know.
Plenty of questions.
Yes. So, the good news is, I mean, the first phase of this has been done about as affordably as it could be done.
Right.
But there's lots of, the good news about the work that's gonna happen this fall is basically the precursor to potentially a mainline upgrade on Route 30.
But this is also, we've solved the reason we don't need the extra well and all is because you got rid of a lot of leakage, right?
To a certain degree. We still, on the way that the rule works is that on from basically June to December, is considered kind of like the low flow drought condition time of year.
And we're in the middle of a drought.
And the spring production during that window has to meet the demand, and then what's called peak demand, which is usually a little bit more than the average. That low flow number has to meet the demand for the whole, for everything. So everything that we see consumed and that goes out through the meters, that number has to jive with the low flow number. And right now, they still have days where they use more than that low flow number, even though functionally the springs are producing more. Like I can tell you right now that the springs are producing more than that right now. But the way that the rule works is you have to meet the kind of worst case scenario essentially. And for those springs, it's 68 gallons a minute, 98,000 gallons a day. So if the system uses more than the 98,000 gallons, which it still does occasionally. It used to use, like when we started this, the system was using 220,000 gallons a day.
Wow.
Right? So we've gone from like 190, 215, 220, all the way down to, now the average it's about 85, 86,000. And the spikes can be in the mid 100s. And those are, sometimes there's leaks, sometimes there's, stuff. So we've driven it down a lot, but still because we continually go above that 98, which is the low flow number, that's why I don't think that there's any way that they're not gonna have to look at, the well and bringing it online and all that stuff. And plus it gets into there's two parts. It's like, it gets into that scope and scale discussion where if they have available water, then there's a ability to then serve additional customers, and then it's.
So we're not likely to drive it too much below the current, the 85 to 98 sort of.
Not without replacing a main somewhere, which is
Right.
going to be multiple millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And it's you can bring the well online and treat it for whatever, maybe 1 to 2 million, but to replace a main on 30 is going to be 5.
Wow.
So that's the
It's crazy.
yeah.
believe
The
it
numbers
costs
are,
that much.
so the numbers on that, like the housing discussion, the same thing is happening with infrastructure stuff. It's just the numbers are, it's difficult to understand, but it's also just a good to try, as the advisor to that prudential board, I can sit there and go, yes, this is a lot of money for a well, but if you did this 40 years ago, it would have been it would have been a lot cheaper, right? I mean, the money now is always going to be cheaper than money in the future. It may not seem like it, but
Right.
just
It
in the
always
last 6-7 years, some of the per foot cost with these type of projects has quadrupled, and I don't know. Either don't do it or you try to find the money and do what you can do. And it's unfortunate. The East Dorset had done a bunch of capital upgrades in the 1980s, and which is still now a ways away, but it definitely, it just speaks to continually having projects that are capital
We went and visited
improvements
the
for
East
systems.
We went and visited the system up there.
Yeah, it just, you know, if, you gotta continually do stuff, otherwise if you don't, you,
Right, you can't let.
yeah, you kinda back yourself
let it
into a
pile.
corner where you just can't do everything at once and everything
Right.
costs a lot of money. I don't have a lot of other stuff to talk about, so.
Okay.
I'll shut up now.
Cool.
Motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Next meeting is 21st of October, hard to believe.
It is, it's coming.